I'm not sure if y'all were following, but we had posted that we were going to be talking to one of the most, in my personal opinion, one of the most viable candidates for Bexar County Commissioner, Trish Deberry, today for Precinct 3. So I hope you guys are all in store. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what plans you have going on for Valentine's Day. Send us some love. Hopefully you're receiving as much love as we're sending, because we know there's a lot in the room right now. Again, let us know where you're watching from, and ask your questions, in the comments below for your candidate, Trish Deberry. So by all means, let me not take any more of your time and introduce Trish. Trish, it's awesome to have you.
Great to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Perfect. So you have such a diverse background.
Yeah, very diverse. I worked in television news for a number of years, then transitioned out of that and founded my own agency with two other partners, a full-service advertising agency. Split off from that partnership, and then 9 years ago founded my own business, the Deberry Group, and we have approximately 23 people. But I've always worked really, really hard. It's tough to be an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Obviously, you're chasing business all the time. You're maintaining the business that you have. You're managing overhead. You're meeting payroll. All those things are important. As we talk about the campaign for county commissioner, I think that pragmatic kind of business skill set is so important to have on the court.
Sure.
Because we're making financial decisions on a regular basis. There's probably not too many people, the question that I get asked, and I got asked this yesterday, they're like, you're a business person and very successful. Why in the world would you do something like run for office?
You took the question out of my mouth.
Yeah, well, and what I told these two gentlemen, I said, quite honestly, I said, I got really tired of those that were in elected office in local government making bad decisions. And when I talk about bad decisions, you and I both know, the Republican National Committee or the convention had an opportunity to come to San Antonio. I mean, it was basically signed, sealed, and delivered. They were ready to come here. But we had some elected officials that said, nope, we don't want you here. Then we had the whole Chick-fil-A issue, about not being in the airport. And so anyway, I decided that, look, if we don't have smart business people that are running for office, we're going to continue to be frustrated. So the opportunity arose, and here I am.
How much was the injection of the RNC coming here? How much would it have made a financial impact to the
Oh, gosh, millions, dollars without question. When you look at the national TV exposure associated with something like that, not to mention the fact, San Antonio, the economy here, even though it's not the number one economic generator, tourism is still very important to this community, and it's all about heads and beds. And so we've got hotel capacity. We expanded the convention center to be able to do something. And so to turn down a convention of that magnitude, sorry, it was just not right and just plain stupid.
Sure. Yeah, it was tragic.
Yes.
You could hear the collective screams.
Yes, primal screams. Yes.
Okay, so such a business background, and that's why you're motivated now.
Yeah.
And we know of other, big political candidates who've gone into office. Same thing. Well, business background.
Yeah. Well, look at Trump, right?
Yeah.
Big business background.
For sure.
Yeah. That he was, obviously supportive of politics, but had never run for office before. I think that's what makes him such a unique candidate.
Yeah.
Is that there were a lot of people that told him, no, you can't do it this way. And he's like, why can't I do it this way? I've done it this way all my life. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of where I created the whole My Business Owners for Trump page, right? It's because I worked with so many business owners over the past how many years, really since I've started my career, and you start to realize that the people who make the money are very serious about making more of it and keeping it and not having to pay the government to make decisions. These politicians who all they've done has been, in the public office, they don't know what it's like to employ 23 people.
No, and and certainly it's not to the magnitude of somebody like Trump. But still, small businesses make up 85% of the economy in Bexar County. You and I are the backbone of this economy. And so you're right. When you've got people that are making very flippant decisions, and what I would call professional politicians that are making flippant decisions about taxes, and I see payroll taxes come out every single, pay period, they have no idea the impact that has on business. Yeah.
I can feel the rage.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if y'all can feel it.
There's a lot of love in the air today because it's Valentine's Day, but there's a little bit of rage and passion here too.
Right. It's full of red.
Yes.
Full of red.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you think the role of commissioner, it's an office. Yeah. So how do you plan to weave your business background into the role of commissioner and to help create a system.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the most important thing from a business background is because of the fact that I've managed budgets and I've managed overhead. One of the things I'm going to do, and I've already started to do it, is really do a deep dive into the budget. The county has close to a $2 billion budget. We need to pump the brakes on discretionary spending. There's been what I think is a lot of frivolous spending that's been done on projects, some that have merit and have a big return on investment, maybe some others that don't. But I think, we've really got to prioritize and get back to basics regarding infrastructure, because at the end of the day, that's what the county is responsible for. Roads, flood control, those sorts of things, and public safety. Really, really important. And, we have a mess at the jail right now, and so we need to get a handle on that because, I'll be blunt, the jail is kind of a hot mess. We've had 19 people escape from the jail.
In
the past year. And so, I think that I've got some ideas I can bring to bear so we will realize cost efficiencies associated with a more professional administration of the jail. But I would tell you that I'm a fiscal conservative by nature. We need to be paying down the debt that we've got at the county, which we have, $160 billion worth of debt. We need to be paying that down before we're spending money on other items. So that's when I talk about pragmatic, fiscal conservative business skill set. Yes, it's exactly what I
So what is your
look
thought
at.
on that? Because, from the financial standpoint of making money, you have to put money in. So
Right.
as far as Bexar County goes, you spend money, or how do you see that? It sounds like it's a two-pronged approach for you, that it's going to be tackling the budget.
Right.
But there also is X amount of dollars that are outlaid for
Yeah,
improvements.
well, transportation is a big one. The Precinct 3 has more than 500,000 people. It's a huge precinct. And so when you look at the bottlenecks that are occurring in Bexar County, a majority of them, and we're sitting in Precinct 3 as we, talk about this today, majority of the bottlenecks are in Precinct 3. And so we're going to have to continue to keep up with growth because San Antonio and Bexar County will continue to be very, very attractive. Low cost of living, Texas in general. No state income tax, really attractive to people. When we looked at tort reform legislation that was passed by the legislature several years ago, that's important, especially to people that practice medicine. So how we keep up with that growth and how we move people around this county becomes really, really important. And so part of what I've tried to educate people when I'm at the doorstep, because people are like, what does a county commissioner do? I like what you're saying, want to
Makes
vote
sense.
for you, but I have no idea what a county commissioner does. And so transportation is a big one. We get federal dollars, we get state dollars. The county acts as kind of a funnel for those transportation dollars. And, we champion and we advocate for monies from the state. And so that will continue to be important. On that note, I want to talk about the fact that I don't think, because I'm a very limited government person, because I feel like government is always operating at its best when it's limited.
Sure.
We don't need to be employing government overreach to force people out of their cars. We live in Texas, right? People like their cars and they like their trucks, right? They're going to drive. And look, people organically, if we have the rise of autonomous vehicles, people organically will move out of their cars, but government doesn't need to be forcing people out of their cars.
Sure.
Or their trucks.
I kind of think
Yeah.
I think if you want to drive a Hummer, you need to be in the military.
Exactly. Right. Well, and that's a good topic too, the military, because there are 3 military installations in the precinct, which obviously the military has been critically important to San Antonio, even from an economy standpoint. My dad is retired Air Force. My stepfather was in the Navy, and so I understand, how important the military is in protecting our freedoms and the men and women that are sacrificing their lives on the front line every single day. But we need to protect those military missions that we have here in Bexar County. But I think there's an opportunity for more robust economic development opportunities associated with the military too. So.
And prayers to the sergeant who just passed from San Antonio.
Yeah, it's just so sad. Yeah, we posted something actually on our Facebook, in memory of him.
Yeah,
So,
it really is.
yeah.
So you are the daughter of your family was
An Air Force veteran. They were. I'm the youngest of 6 children, and
The youngest, the baby.
Yeah, I like to say that my mother found out she was pregnant with me in Wiesbaden, Germany, where they were stationed, and I think at that point, my mother kind of told my dad, look, we've been moving kids across the country every 2 or 3 years. He was talking about retirement anyway. And so they retired here in San Antonio. So I was the only one of the 6 that actually grew up in one place. But brothers and sisters were in Victorville, California, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. So they were all over.
Military installations.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
So my dad was out of Randolph. Yeah.
And then you have grandparents, or your...
I had a stepfather who was in the Navy.
Got it.
Yeah.
So really on kind of all angles.
Yeah, and I like to talk about the fact that like my father is 92 years old, watches politics very closely, is definitely an adamant, passionate Republican, obviously because of his time that was served in the military. And he just sent me an email the other day. He's like, we cannot forget about the men and women that are on the front line every day. He said, I think it's easy in the country that we live in today. People get tied up in things and don't really recognize what we have in this country and how people have protected this country. And given us the freedoms that we have today.
Absolutely. And it is. I mean, there's a palpable, feeling the military from Military City, USA.
Yeah. Well, which obviously goes to the importance of voting. Not everybody in this world has the freedom to be able to vote. We have that.
Yes.
So it's so important for people to go vote, not only in my election, but in every election. Yeah.
So where did the conservative side of Trish kind of rear herself? Is that because the way you were brought up, or was there some sort of aha moment where you realized in your career?
I think the military obviously was very important, but faith has always been very important to my family, especially my father, who still prays every single day, reads the Bible. And I think we grew up in church, and I think my mother has all kinds of stories about trying to keep track of heads as 6 of us marched out to try to get up in the morning and go to church, and what a heavy lift that was. But it was important for them to set that kind of foundation. And so I think family is very important to me. Faith is hugely important to me. And like I said, I think just growing up in a military family, those conservative values have always been there.
Been there.
Yeah.
So this is something that.
Yeah, and then now, and a bit from a business standpoint, it's only reinforced the conservative values that I have, as we've talked about regarding, taxes and how much we, even as a small business, pay, in taxes. And speaking of taxes, one thing I hear all the time when I'm at the front door is property taxes. Folks in Precinct 3 feel like property taxes are out of control. It's not enough for Commissioner's Court to brag that we're keeping the tax rate flat, we're keeping the tax rate low, when appraisals are going sky high. That's an effective tax increase. So, one of the things I've talked about on the campaign trail is that I really want to tackle appraisal reform. And what does that look like? And there again, that's not something that happens overnight. But I would like to be on the board of directors at the appraisal district and represent the taxpayer and figure out ways that perhaps maybe the board of directors at the appraisal district are actually elected and not necessarily appointed. Because most folks don't know that board of directors is the only entity that the chief appraiser in Bexar County reports to.
The only entity.
Yeah, 4 out of the 6 are appointed by the chief appraiser. I don't know if you follow where I'm going here, but that's kind of like the fox guarding the hen house. He has a lock on every decision he makes regarding appraisals. So I would like some help in representing the taxpayer. I don't want to be alone. So that's why I think an elected board is a good idea.
Taxes are going up pretty astronomically.
Right. Well, especially in Precinct 3. I mean, there's a lot of...
What do you attribute that to?
A lot of I think a lot of it is just the growth that we've experienced here. The migration of people, obviously, that are here. I mean, you look at our neighbors up the road in Austin. That's not even affordable to live in Austin anymore. Really, I mean, valuations and the price of homes is out of control, which is one thing we're going to have to watch, very closely, is that we don't want to price people out of the market, out of living here. But by the same token, I think from an appraisal standpoint, it's also a very subjective decision making. Whether they look at improvements to the house, they look at land values associated with it, and it's like I said, a very subjective decision. But one of the things I want to do if I get in the office, which I think is important, Precinct 3 has never had a field office in the precinct. And so I think just from an accessibility standpoint, people being able to come talk to you, complain, learn about how they can protest their property taxes, making that a more transparent, more consumer-friendly process, I think, is important too. But I don't want people to have to drive all the way downtown, to the offices at the court.
Sure.
Park. We should have a field office where people can pull up and park and easily come in and talk about what they want to talk about and get help.
And that's kind of an interesting side of you, because that's a personal thing where you want. I think when you see people like, variations of, individuals like yourself who become high performing in their life,
right?
It's because they hold up the mirror.
Yeah.
And sometimes that mirror isn't pretty. Sometimes it's ugly.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
Right?
Yes.
But you have to get really good at looking inside. And when you're running a business and you've got multiple people putting bread on the table of multiple people, you have to make quicker decisions that say, okay, is this working or is it not?
Yeah, exactly.
And we're either going to cut it off in the head.
Yeah.
Or we're going to retool real quick and measure and assess our results.
Right.
And then we're going to go in with a different approach.
Right. And sometimes, to your point, those quick decisions that are made are very difficult decisions. Whether you're having to reduce overhead, whether, in my situation, whether you've lost a client and you feel like, okay, we got to cut back somewhere, but we got to do it immediately for the greater good for the whole of the organization. Or if we have a new client that comes on, it's like, well, do we add that extra overhead? I'm not sure I want to do that yet. But then again, I've got to satisfy the client. And so you're making difficult decisions on a daily basis. And to your point, I go to bed every night and I don't forget the fact that I have some 20 odd people that are relying upon me, to put food on the table. And so it's stressful, I will tell you, but it's the only life I've known. And so I get exhilarated by it. And so, multitasking, and people are like, I don't know how you do it. You're like the Energizer Bunny. You've raised 2 kids, you've been a single mom, you've got a business, and, now you want to run for commissioner's court or whatever. How in the world are you going to do that? And so, I would tell you I'm at my best when I am multitasking. And I think, I don't know that it's necessarily just a female trait, but I think we as females are actually really, really good at multitasking.
The brain switching?
Yes.
Don't ask a man to do that, right? And I think so. I think you do have this surge of women that are stepping in, and I think it's because CEOs and, which are typically dominated by men, right?
Right.
I think they are starting to recognize that we do bring a different variable, and that's the ability to do multiple things. If you look at just your children, you have two children. How old are they?
Teenagers.
Oh, how fun.
Yes, exactly.
But it really is. The business of the household.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're managing the household, too. As well as 2 very busy schedules because my kids are busy. They play sports and, I'm on them about homework and grades. And, my son is a graduating senior, and so he's going to college. And so we're looking at college application process and where he's going to go to school. And, I feel like I've always had very high expectations for my kids, and they understand that.
Sure.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's our job, I would tell you, especially as a fiscal conservative or Republican, we want our kids to be independent. We want our kids to be capitalists.
And have a better life than we did.
Tax-paying citizens of society. And
Right.
that's our job, is to prepare them for that.
Yeah. So this is a 2-pronged question too. When you look at your kids and you look at San Antonio and you look at the United States, what scares you about the future if things don't change?
Well, it's something that my dad put in an email when I told you he sent something out the other day, and he said, if things don't start to change, we're only going to be able to share stories with our children about the way things were, that not everything was free, and that we had people respected the military and the freedoms that they were fighting for. I don't think the United States has ever been set up for socialism, but we hear a lot about that. And I think one of the things that I've talked about is I don't only want to be a great county commissioner. There again, it goes back to the multitasking. I want to be a builder for the party, because I think we need that in Bexar County. And I think the county commissioner seat is the highest elected Republican seat in the county. And I think it's incumbent of whoever, which hopefully it's me, that gets into that seat, it's incumbent upon me to be a leader for the party, to recruit more people into the party, to look at young people and young conservatives, and blessed to have the endorsement of Young Conservatives of Texas, but we've got to have younger folks in the party. We've got to have more suburban moms that are coming into the party, a diversification, but you've got to have somebody who's out there championing the cause. Yeah.
Okay, so coming full circle on that.
Yeah.
I hear field office. I hear tackling, budgets. Kind of managing the literal traffic flow of, Bexar County.
Right.
How do you plan to help the party? How to grow the party and to bring in the moms, the single moms?
Well, I think we've got to do it better. Look, I'm an outreach specialist at heart. That's what I've done for years, is that I've given people a voice on, different initiatives and different projects. And I feel like that's exactly what we've got to do. We've got to cast a wider net. I think we've got to be a lot more proactive. And you've got to have somebody, I think, who's passionate and pushing content out, as you know how important it is, from a social digital standpoint. Trump changed the game as far as campaigning, and Brad Parscale, when it came to social and digital. And I don't know that we've amped up the way we need to in Bexar County to be able to do that. There again, that's a wheelhouse that I've got when I talk about integrated marketing. We could be doing a heck of a lot more to recruit people to the party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is, and it's an exciting time. One, I think Trump has made it somewhat in vogue to be political, right? People who didn't care.
You're right.
The whole Trump factor, right? Not political
people
himself.
that felt like that they had been disenfranchised and forgotten.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now no longer feel that way.
But it's such a feather in the cap of San Antonio that Brad Parscale originates.
No kidding.
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is.
Absolutely.
And that's both your and my background.
I
so
know.
to see that coming from San Antonio and to know that
it was pretty amazing.
we are a little antiquated when it comes to technology. Even though we have technology, we're just
right.
And so it's exciting. It's invigorating to see that is a part of your vision.
Yeah. He's also a Trinity grad. So I graduated from Trinity too. So it's great for the Trinity Tigers, to have somebody like Brad.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really fascinating what's happening. Have you seen that? What's happening with the party? He's now got all these stats dialed in, where you've got 20% of people who are registered Democrats who are showing up to the rallies. You've got 10% of people who aren't even registered voters.
Right.
There really is a massive a fluctuation happening in the party.
Yeah.
And it's very exciting. So
it is exciting.
It's so fun to see powerful women who, you can tell this is a passion. This is just like you've gotten motivated from the inside out.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think, we talked about this too, about women getting more involved in the party and suburban moms. It's been more than 20 years since a woman has been on the court, on Commissioner's Court.
Wow, 20 years.
Judge Cindy Cryer, who I count as a supporter, who has endorsed me, used to be a former judge for the court, but she was never a county commissioner. She ran for judge and she won judge. But there was a female county commissioner, Helen Dutmer, who, rest in peace, Helen just passed away probably a couple of weeks ago. But that is the last female county commissioner we had on the court. So anyway, I'm ready to get in there and shake things up, because it's been a long time since I think we've had somebody, a fiscal conservative who's willing to shake things up.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Folks, there's so much. We could sit here for hours and talk about Trish's background, her business, and we're going to have another episode coming up with her too, where we're going to dive into the entrepreneur, the philanthropist, the one that's doing that spin class when everybody's still tucked in. Stay tuned for that episode. As far as the viewers being able to engage with you, follow you, find you, how do they do that?
TrishForCommish.com. We want to hear from you. Feel free to put anything out there, questions. We'd love to answer any questions that you've got. But most importantly, early voting starts on Tuesday. So more than anything, I want your vote. So
wonderful. Well, I think you deserve it.
Thank you.
You're such a motivated, fresh face, and Bexar County would be privileged to have you in there. It's neat when you see people who aren't, who have such a big background that you don't. It's clearly because you care, not because of
that's right.
Any other reason.
Right. Thank you.
Well, folks, this is Rachel from Extreme with your candidate for Precinct 3 in Bexar County, Trish Deberry. Let us know again where you're tuning in from. Let us know what you have on the Valentine's Day agenda. Hopefully everyone's got a glass of wine or a wine cooler in their future tonight. Thanks for supporting. Make sure you share. Tune in for more. We're going to have another episode with Trish Deberry coming up here very soon. And stay tuned for any updates on the campaign trail. This is Rachel from Extreme.